Hi, this is Kendra from Pencil and Pigment, and today is Vlogoween day 22. And today I'm going to draw and we're going to talk about blackbirds. Now I'm going to throw up some pictures. I'm going to do some comparison pictures that I found that some other people have put together of crows versus ravens, because I'm going to be drawing a crow today, but I wanted you to know that if you wanted to branch out, ravens are also a lot of fun to draw. And there's a bunch of differences between them. You could talk size, appearance, habitat, diet, intelligence, group behavior, like the species, the lifespan, the calls they make, they all vary. But when it comes to illustration terms, we're going to look at size and we're going to look at appearance. So crows are roughly the size of a pigeon, and ravens are the size of like a red-tailed hawk. So ravens are much bigger. So if you're going to denote difference or put them in context of a background, make sure you have the size a bit more accurate to what you have going on around them. And that will help show the viewer or whoever is looking at your art the size differentiation to help identify crow versus raven. It's just for an accuracy standpoint. You don't have to do this. You don't have to add a background. It's just every little thing that you think about and analyze when it comes to your illustration just adds to it and builds to it and helps level up your artist abilities. So when it comes to appearances, crows are obviously smaller. They have a straighter beak. It's blunt. They have a fan-shaped tail. They have splayed wings. Ravens have a larger curved beak. They have a wedged sort of shaped tail and pointed wings and shiny feathers. Again, it can be really hard to sort of tell if they're not side by side. How I reference it really easily when I'm looking at them in nature is size and the call. So crows kind of caw and ravens kind of gronk. They make like a croaking sound. And that is how I identify them. When it comes to illustration, and I don't do a lot of background work because I try and delve into the subject matter. That's the detail I want to enhance and get better at. I have to label it because it's really hard to tell, especially with different viewpoints and stuff. Now, in terms of drawing and painting and creating black birds, you can have a ton of fun with it. Now, I'm going to throw up a couple sample pictures of crows. And these are extreme examples. Both of these are crows. The one on the left is it's a natural light. It could be an overcast day. There's no direct sunshine on the bird. So the bird is skewing a very cool black. I would add a lot of indigos, especially those bottom feathers. This is very cool. I would do black and I would do indigo and have those two colors be for this bird. Now for the crow on the right, you can see the shadow. You can see the drop shadow. You can see the sunshine. There could be a sunset. It could be a sunrise. It could be a very orange sky. There could be smoke in the air. There could be all kinds of things that really warm the feathers up. This is a warm black. For this, I would add like Carmine Lake. I would add a deep burgundy, reds, really warm browns to this black. Now, both these birds are black birds. But both these birds look totally different depending on the lighting you have and the reference you're using and the way you choose to draw and create them, your artistic license. And this is why black birds are so much fun. They're so much fun because you can add things like that. You can even combine, and part of the bird can be a warm black and part of the bird in shadow could be the cool black. And you can have 4, 5, 6 different colors in one black bird. You can have middleweight gray, you can have black, you can have indigo, you can have sepia, you can have Carmine Lake, you can have walnut brown. You can have all of them together to make one bird. Now, other things you can do is you can add purposely, just drop like spot color. Here is my old sketchbook that I watercolored birds. Here is a bird. I don't even know which one this is. I used drop color, so I used spot color. This is Potter's pink, and this is a blue. This is a black bird. It's a solid black bird. I just decided I wanted blue and pink in there. That's a design choice. That is something you can do with black birds. You can add color. And they still are a black bird. Another black bird. Again, I did Potter's pink and I did kind of a teal. You can add color to black and it really elevates and makes the black pop. You still recognize and understand this is a black bird, but there's other colors you can combine. Now, here's another one. I did pink and green. That's very green. That skews almost too green for my liking. But in experimenting and learning, here's another one. This is a blackbird. And I added lots of blues and a little bit of pink. That was a choice. I decided I wanted my blackbird to have some spot color. You can do this. You can figure out where you want to highlight. Where the sun is shining the brightest, you can add a spot color. Where it's the darkest, you can add a different color. Experiment. Draw the same thing 4, 5, 6 different ways. I know that sounds kind of wild, but keep experimenting with color while you do things like that, and you will understand the joys and the loveliness that is drawing black birds. They're so much fun to draw because you can add weird colors. Now I'm going a little bit more hyper realistic with the drawing challenge I'm doing this year instead of the one I did previous where I added lots of weird spot colors. As you can see, it's just more accurate than not accurate. So for this one, I am choosing the reference that's from Wikipedia. This is the one where it's warm. I want to add the Carmine Lake. I'm using the Caran d'Ache Luminescence. This is 6901 in black. And it turns out I looked in my jars in my cabinet, and I don't have I don't have a backup black. So fun story. That is something I'm going to have to purchase next summer for my low buy, is a new black. And I'll have to decide if the black I have is enough, or if I want to try another black. I don't know which black this is. This is the Polychromos. It just says black on it. It doesn't have any other thing, but I know there's other shades and tints, like lamp black versus ivory black. Is again going to talk about cool and warm. You can see that, right? Yeah, okay, it's lightly gray. Cool versus warm. Like, how cool do you want something to be? How warm do you want something to be? The other thing with black, you can turn it black and white. You know, you could hop on Photopea, which is a free online site. There are tons of YouTube videos teaching you how to use Photopea. You can hop on there and you can turn the photo black and white, and then you can paint any color you want, one solid color. Here, let me show you something. All right, here's a watercolor I did last year. I did indigo watercolors for Mab's Vlogoween, and I did like a witch with her familiar. So which witch is which? And this is a crow, and it's all indigo. So is my tiger, but you still know it's an indigo bird and a tiger. Like, it doesn't it doesn't take away if you want to go monochromatic for your art. I'll link this sketchbook tour if you're interested. I really, really love the color indigo. I think you can create anything with one solid color. It really teaches you the importance of understanding value, the lightness and dark of colors when you go to draw, when you go to create. And you really do need a absolute full value range when you go to do stuff that's monochromatic, and it really helps you understand shadow and highlight and appreciate that for what it is, which is why I really, really like doing things monochromatic. It's a really great sort of practice exercise for those who are interested in getting better at adding shadows to their art and identifying those, but turning reference photos black and white, you can do that on your phone if you've taken a picture, or if you are using a reference photo from something online. Again, Photopea can help with that. I'm going to do the eye. And this is a very neutral black. I wouldn't say it skews warm, and I wouldn't say it skews kind of cool. It's on the cusp of neutrality, bordering on a little warm, if that makes sense. In fact, I think the colors I'm going to use for this one are going to be indigo, carmine, black, and one last one to save on time. We're doing a Halloween movie night on our computer, and mid-gray. So I'm using these 4 colors. And again, I have pencil extenders and pencil holders because my colors are getting so small. They're very, very tiny. Let's zoom in. All right, here's my bird. Here's like, here's what I have left of indigo. I have 2 backups of indigo. I think this is why I did the no buy. If you want to go in and look at my videos and my playlists and stuff, I didn't know why, because I was purchasing and not paying attention. So I have 2 backup indigos. I don't have any backup black. So obviously making notes, having an inventory, paying attention really helped with some of this. Oh, I should start with the eyeball. That always helps, huh? Okay, let's start with the eye. Give us something to focus on. But yeah, learning spot color is an advanced form of color theory. I have a playlist on color theory if you are interested. There are tons of videos and online articles about color theory. If you don't want to go and take a class, if that's not something that's available to you in your region, or you're doing a low buy, no buy, or you're on a very specific budget or income, there are references and things you can do at home with the supplies you have, and really start watching videos and articles and looking at what other artists do with their spot color, because it can be absolutely fascinating, their design and art choices. So I would definitely recommend that be something you look into, especially if you want to level up your art. If you want to get weird with it, if you're bored, if you want to challenge yourself, if you want to try something new, adding spot colors and adding some things can really, really enhance your art. Okay, I think we're about as good as we're going to get with this eyeball for now. It's kind of a weird highlight on that. That's okay. We'll figure it out in the end. And they've got a little rim around here. So, blackbirds. Highly recommend you draw one. I can throw up some pictures of some other birds. If you think a solid colored bird just isn't that engaging to you, or you've done a lot of crows and ravens and you want something else, like you want to keep it spicy and try something new, there are a lot of mostly black feathered birds that have splashes of color. That way you don't even have to think about the spot color. Nature did it for you. Things like, what is it, the vampire parrot? There's a couple birds that have some really great splashes of red. And I will throw up pictures, and then I'll link Wikipedia things if you want to look for reference photos. But they're very, very beautiful, and mostly black feathered birds with a splash of red is very dynamic. It's very eye-catching. It's very engaging. I mean, vampire named anything in the animal world always sort of gets people's attention, you know, vampire bats, things like that. So it's very on theme, on brand if you are doing, you know, Halloween spooky stuff. And then if you like polka dots, I'll throw up this one. I don't remember the name offhand. Sometimes while I'm drawing, I'm so focused on what I'm drawing, I draw blanks on name. I don't do voiceovers. I don't voice over any of my videos. So I'm literally drawing while I'm talking, which is fine, except when I start laughing. And then my hand starts shaking. So, yeah. Yeah. Drawing and talking. It's a skill. It's taken me a while to get better at it. I used to draw, talk, and read notes at the same time. I don't do that so much anymore. It was making me crazy, and my drawings were looking wonky in some of my videos. So. And then trying to make sure it's on camera, in focus, and that my battery life only lasts like just under 12 minutes, so I have to turn off and turn on again and keep track of the time. It's it's a thing. But anyway, there are some lovely birds. If you want to get into something that almost looks black but has like really breathtaking color that you could overlay and work on blending, the grackle, I think is the name. I don't know. I'll throw up a picture of that bird too. Again, I know there's way more birds out there than my knowledge extends to. If you know of some birds that are your favorite that have lots of black feathers that you would like to put in the comment section as reference for other artists that come across this video, that would be a great help and resource to everyone following along and watching and curious about why I think drawing blackbirds is so awesome. Because it is. It is because I say it is. Trust. Yeah. So if you wanted to, you could totally add like lime green. Like, stay with me on this. If you wanted to add like a little rim of lime green, I want to show you what I did one time. I watercolored an ibis. Let's see if I can find it. Here's a parrot, and I did teal. There's no teal on this red bird. But I put teal on there anyway. That's like a spot color, just for fun. Because I could, and I got away with it. I don't know that it always works. I have a lot of... Here's, like, a scarlet ibis doesn't have any blue, but I put spot blue on mine anyway. And kind of did little bits of outlines. You could totally do that on a black bird in any color you want to. You could totally mess around and get absolutely strange with it. And if you're really subtle, if the lines are really, really fine, obviously my lines on those were really, really thick and noticeable. Again, design choice, artistic license. You could do your lines really, really small in a way that it's there in your mind's eye, but it's not detracting or standing out so much as it is just changing sort of the color and the feel of the overall art, if that makes sense. So, my recommendation for blackbirds. 1, figure out what kind of black you're dealing with your references, or in nature, or your choice that you want to do. Do you want it warm? Do you want it cool? And then figure out, do you want to add color in the highlights? Like, I could totally, in this bird, in the highlights near the eye right here, I could totally put in pink if I wanted to. I could put in pink, I could put in copper, I could put in an ochre. I could totally do one of these in that if I wanted to. I may not. But you can take a color that's kind of there and lean into it and make it more noticeable. So if you want to get weird with the color and experiment with the color and realize the joys of black birds, you can absolutely do that with looking at a color like around here where it looks more reddish brown. You could totally lean into red. Like, you can make that more noticeable. You can make that pop more. You can lay down your layer of black and then lightly blend red over it until you see more and more red, and then you decide where you stop and you decide how red that becomes. Like you could really, really have fun with blackbirds. I love blackbirds. Just pay attention to the shadows and the highlights. Pay attention to context. Like I want my main subject matter to be the bird, so that's all I'm drawing. That's all you get to look at. I control what you see with that because it's just bird. But if you're adding branches, what do the branches add to your illustration? Do they add to the black? Is this like a night thing? Is this a Halloween thing? I mean, if you're drawing a blackbird at night, like one, that's gonna be a lot of black product. But you can get really strange with some of the highlights. Like if you choose to add metallics or have stars shining or water reflecting or some of these things, you could totally add silver and gold to your bird. And it's still a black bird. Like we all acknowledge, and the overall sense is, yes, this is still a black bird, but it's not all black. So, manipulate as you will as artists. This is the fun part. We decide what we want our birds to look like. Do we want to highlight and make things more noticeable, or do we want more things to blend in? Like if you are more interested in portraits or people or original characters and things like this, and you know, you want to do a little bit of birds, all your original characters could have pet birds on their shoulder, and then it's just like a little tiny 1-inch or 2.5 centimeter illustration of the bird, and then you choose what's your blackbird's going to be mostly black. Like, let's just be for real. Of something that size, it's going to be 1 to 2 colors max, probably. If that, you know, it's pretty generous saying it'll be 2 colors, being that size. But that it's how you can incorporate birds that way too. Just want to make sure that my darks are the darkest where I need them to be. And then bird feathers. Bird feathers. Absolutely. Absolutely. But I will do, next Sunday, if you like, we can talk about iridescence and trying to create faux metallics and things with the supplies you have without owning them. There are ways to sort of lean into that so it almost looks like you've drawn gold or drawn something that shines metallic. And there are some techniques for that. I will find some bird references and pick one and then show you. And we could talk about it. I could do a demo if you like. But all this, when you go to pick a drawing challenge, like Birdtober or, you know, Painttober or Drawloween or whatever it is, as it pertains to birds, because that's what I'm doing this month, there are so many different things to know and keep track of and learn, and it's not, it can seem like such an easy undertaking. Oh, I'm drawing birds this month. And everybody goes, okay, cool, right on. I love a good bird. But then you get down to it and you sit down and you look at a thing and you're like, well, that looks like a lot. That's a lot to unpack. And I'm not sure the easiest way to go about this or learn how to draw this. Mine doesn't look anywhere close to the reference, or maybe you don't want it to look like the reference at all. But as you go and continue, there's so many things to keep track of. Blackbirds, whitebirds, the subtleties of color theory, of composition, of context, of shape, of form, of value. There's just so much. Plus there's understanding how to use the supplies you have with the surfaces you're creating on. Do you understand the paper you have? Is it the best one for the supplies you have? Maybe your erasers aren't good or something. You know what I mean? Like, it can be an absolute lot. And I think when it comes, because October is like the big challenge month because of Inktober, I think there can be a lot of pressure, and not a lot of people are talking about like all the things you have to know or all the things that would help you make it easier on top of creative like confidence and just getting in there and unwinding with an illustration and figuring out time management. And like that's not built into any drawing challenge. Like people don't talk about that. I am going definitely pink with this beak, and I'm gonna use my guy. That one's too pink. Let's see, this one's too pink. This is like the magnolia red or something. Who am I grabbing? You know, you put them in a clear jar and you think you can see them, and then you can't when you're on film to find them. Oh no, that's even worse. Okay, hold on. I had the right one the whole time. This is a Venetian red. I'm gonna put this very, very palely between the lips with a combination of cream. And that's how I'm going to do, I said lips, where the beaks meet. The line with the beaks. Yep, those are the colors. Yep. Being able to parse out and identify the range in which your supplies can use and mix, like that takes time, and that takes practice, and that takes a lot of things that there just isn't the conversation about all the different things that go into a drawing challenge. Like here I am trying to teach you one aspect of drawing one hue of bird, which is blackbird. But that doesn't go into understanding like what blacks you own. Maybe the black you own skews too warm or skews too cool, and you never knew because you didn't have any other blacks to compare it to. If you have blacks in different mediums, you can swatch them all on a page. You can do this with all the colors if you want. You can put all your browns together, all your greens together, all your blues together, whatever. Swatch all your blacks and compare your watercolor black to your colored pencil black. Compare it to your Neocolor black. Compare it to your marker black. Compare them all, and you can start to identify which ones are more gray than black, which ones are more warm, which ones are more cool. And then you can identify that and understand that. And then if you're drawing along and you're creating and you do this and you realize, hypothetical of course, that your colored pencils or what you've been using is just the wrong shade of black for a bunch of the birds you've been doing, you then know that about your supplies. And that could be something that you rectify later or you lean into. And that could be like a aha moment of understanding, this is why this doesn't match this reference. My black is too gray. My black is too warm. There are infinite shades of black, as there are infinite shades of every color. So when you purchase the same color from different companies, I have 3 different indigos. I have Schmincke's Hoodrum Aquarelle in a pan. I have a tube from Daniel Smith that has black in it, so it's more light fast. And I have the Gansai Tambi indigo. Boy, I hope I'm saying all that correct, pronouncing it. I apologize if my pronunciation's horrible. And they're all a little different. My favorite, of course, is the least light fast, which is the Schmincke. Unfortunately, but I just love that shade the most, and understanding that they all just look a little bit different. I like the tube the least. Unfortunately, again, it's the most light fast, and sometimes I take my drawings and things out of my sketchbooks and I gift them to people. So I always make sure that, like, that's one thing I don't have to worry about is light fastness. So that is why. But putting things side by side even if they're different mediums, and having a sketchbook so you can identify that can really, really help. And I can do that in a video if you want to look at stuff. I will link my like 3 indigo video I did. It's really subtle. It's real subtle. And sometimes these things look better and more noticeable in person, unfortunately. And they kind of don't really translate on camera, and you kind of have to just, yeah, I trust you, but I don't see what you're seeing. And that's unfortunate. Camera things and lighting, and like right now it's gray outside because it's been raining all day, so I have my desk lamp on. But being able to identify color and understand like the basis of the color, understand of your colors. You can swatch your art supplies many, many different ways. And one way you could do it is you could take all your art supplies, like all of them. I could take my whole collection of my 36 polychromos plus the 4 or 5 add-ons I have. I probably have more, like half a dozen at this point, that are convenience colors. And I could swatch them all. And then I can identify which ones are warm, which ones are cool. Like warm pink, cool pink. And then I could divide that out into a different set of swatches of just my warms, of just my cools. Like you could keep going with that as a form of practice, as a drill, as identifying, as working on color theory. There are a ton of things you can do at home that don't involve going out and buying all new stuff or watching tons and tons of videos. Like you can identify that yourself, going through what you have, and then having a page of all your blacks and understanding like, okay, well the black from this watercolor company looks way different. It could be more transparent, and you could denote that. It could be more granulating. You could denote that. And then you could say, okay, this one skews pretty neutral. This one's pretty warm. Or you can just rate them in terms of each other by comparison. So this one is only warm because compared to this one, which is super cool. And that's a way you can do that too. Again, I hope this helps. Like have a place where you can do some of this stuff and identify the colors of products you have, that you can get to, that you can look at, that you can understand, that you won't lose it, you know, and then you can make sure everything is clearly labeled. Do yourself favors. Do not rely on memorization just because, especially if you're just starting out, because you think you're only going to own a couple things. And then you end up owning a couple more. And your art supplies tend to breed while you're not looking at night. And then you own a ton of stuff and you don't remember what's what. Especially if you've like swatched something when you first bought it years and years ago. So make sure that your labeling is good. Use a pen that's like permanent, that's archival. Microns are cheap. They do the job adequately. And then get to understanding what you have. Like fully understand what you have with your products. Understand that, you know, you may own colors that are super similar to each other, and they may be colors that you don't use a lot of. And you can start a list of not buying this. Just not buying it anymore. Don't need it. Don't want to buy it. And all this comes through practice. You have to practice. Even if you're just practicing swatching your supplies and putting them in different identifying columns so you understand them better, that is practice. Even if you're just working on blending colors together and overlapping colors and seeing how many new colors you can make with the colors you own, that is also practice. I don't mean you have to sit down and do a hyper-realistic picture of a crow. You don't have to do that. That happens to be what I'm doing today. Nobody has to do what I'm doing today. Just the more you practice and handle your supplies and put them to a surface where they show up, the more you're going to understand them, the better you're going to get at your art. But you have to sit down and do it. I mean, you could stand and draw, but you have to draw. You have to paint. You have to use your stuff. The wasted product is the product that sits in a tube, that sits on a shelf, that never gets picked up. Like that's the real waste. So if you've never combined a couple art supplies before, it is time to combine. It is time to overlap. It is time to try mixed media. It is time to expand the amount of supplies you have and the knowledge you have of your supplies by doing things like that. That is also really good practice for understanding art. You can see he's starting to come together. He's starting to look like a bird. I mean, the majority of him will be one solid color, so that's kind of easy. That's kind of quicker. Again, we can do this. We can do fun things. If you request fun things with like watercolor, we can do that too. It'll probably have to wait till November just because I'm busy in October with all these videos. I apologize. But we can absolutely do weird things with watercolor. Like we can have November be watercolor experimentation or watercolor practice ideas or watercolor like skills to master or whatever. I'm down for whatever. You know what I'm saying? I'm down for it. You just gotta let me know what would help you the most so I know. Because there are tons of things you can do with watercolor that help you get better at watercolor without feeling discouraged. Like comparison is the thief of joy. So don't compare your watercolors to my watercolors. I've been doing it for a while and like I have a different amount of time and energy to dedicate to my stuff than you do. Like my life's different than yours. So we can't like compare things. So here is the basis of macro. Hi, baby. Oh, starting to come together. They're so much fun. See how quick this is? And the more you practice, the faster you get at creating your art. That is also lovely. That is also lovely. Especially when you realize like you're in a time crunch. And you're like, I don't have the time to do that. Absolutely, you get quicker with creating the more you practice. So there are so many benefits to constantly working on your art. And it's not just getting better art. It's speeding up. It's knowing how long it takes you to create certain things. I'm going to add indigo for sure on the top of this beak. And I don't typically draw at this angle, but I want you to be able to see what I'm doing. Like how many colors can you add to a blackbird and it's still black? Well, we gonna find out. So, beak is definitely cool. It definitely has blues. I'm definitely here for it. Alrighty. And we need some of this pale pink. And again, learning how much pressure to apply to your pencil to get the colors, the tints you want, the hues you want, the shades you want. Hue is the color, tint is plus white, shade is plus black. So, knowing some of this, understanding some of this. Is that starting to translate on the screen? I hope it does. All right, working on the beak. Now we need to add some of that red that I've been talking about so you can see what I've been screaming for warmth. And again, I am changing the amount of pressure I am applying. When I want it darker, I press down harder. When I want it lighter, I ease up. I am adding spot color to my blackbird. This is Carmine Lake. Yeah, I don't know. I can't see these, you know? Like I feel like I need my glasses. I have magnifying glasses. Oh, I love them. I got them on Amazon. They're like plus 10s. Yeah, it's just called Carmine Lake $5.75. Okay. Fair enough. but I could really, really skirt the line if I wanted to about how black my blackbird is. I really could push the envelope. Like I could have laid down this color entirely first and then lightly layered black on top of it. Still called it a crow. Still would be a blackbird. But now it's just way in the sun. It's all the way. It is a sunshine bird. It is kissed by the sunshine. So, our cat is gray. She's a part Russian blue. When I turn the photo black and white, I can then see how much brown there is in her gray. She has a fair bit of brown in her gray. And that's by taking photos of her in natural light and then turning them black and white. I could then identify what kind of gray her fur is. So practice doing that with the photos you have in your phone, in your iPad, whatever tech you're using. Really start experimenting with some of the filtration and things that are available to you. Instagram has filters, I believe, you can put on. You can make things warmer, make things cooler. Sometimes they're named, like filters are named like 1970s, and all it does is like add like a yellow. Makes everything a little bit more yellow, but understanding that there are movies, you can watch movies where that are filmed in different locations within the movie, and they change the color filter to denote the location, and it's subtle. Like here we're filming in Mexico, so the filter here is yellow, and then we're filming in Europe and the filter's blue. So one feels warmer, one feels cooler. It's very much evocative, like how color makes you feel. How warmth makes you feel warm and cool, recedes, warm comes forward. Like think about the emotion that color evokes. Like all this can be placed into an illustration. And when you get to things like commissions or art for sale or wanting to say something, like I'm just drawing birds, it's not that deep, okay? I'm just gonna like be for real. I'm just sketching some birds. And I want to teach you a couple things while I do it. This is not protest art. It's just not. It could be if I put some sayings and things on there, but it's not. I'm not trying to say anything that I need you to listen to. You can just look at it and go, yeah, okay, she knows how to draw that kind of bird. Nice. Moving on. Like it's just a quick move on thing. It's not a move in and go, oh, I get what she's screaming. No, it's not that. But if you're going to do art, that is that. If you're going to add birds and you're saying a message, if, you know, you want to protest people on indigenous land and you're doing birds that are native to that area and that's part of your protest art, you can do that. Understand what colors you're using to evoke that feeling. Do you want it to stand out and get attention? Do you want it to blend into the saying of the background? Do you want it to recede? Do you want it to come forward? Choose your colors accordingly. If you're making a gift, make sure to use people's favorite colors. If I'm drawing a crow for my youngest daughter, I am absolutely not using Carmine Lake. I am using violet. I will throw in all the purple all the time. It is her absolute favorite. It's been her favorite since she was 18 years old and could tell me her favorite color was dark purple. Like, I know this. So gifts for her include purple. Know your audience and know who things are for when it comes to commissions, when it comes to gifts. I mean, commissions you can even ask, like, is this going in your living room? What's the color scheme there? What are your favorite colors? Do you have furniture you're trying to match to your art? Again, start with your art first and match your furniture to your art. That's way easier. I bought a couch related to the color of our walls. So that's how I do, because that's how I am, but I'm my own beast. Just again, with black, you can add purple, you can add red, you can add all these really fun colors, and you can absolutely get wild and weird with it and have it still be a blackbird, have it still be unique. really feel like you're learning your supplies, learning your tools, which is such a great sense of accomplishment. And it's such a good feeling to know that you're using the things you buy and you're understanding the things you're using, and it's starting to look like the reference photo, and that feels good. Like all that, all that is something. All that's something that goes towards short-term goals, long-term goals, plans, hobbies, stress relief, income, however you choose to do your art and use your art. All these things can be thought about. So I hope this video helps in some way. I hope you got at least one tip. I hope your day is absolutely wonderful, and I will talk to you tomorrow. Bye.